I think I would say thank you.
I would be filled with so much joy and give him a big hug.
When God told you to die for us, why did you do that? I realized that you love us, but you gave yourself up to be tortured, and you knew that. Why?
Why did you die on the cross for our sins?
What's shaking, V-Town? We doing good out there? Oh, you guys are quiet today. We got to remedy that. Well, do you want to hear a sermon today, or do you want to hear a testimony? Oh, somebody said both. There we go. I get a twofer today. So hopefully I can work in both of these. But I want to start with just our topic, with our series here. We've been looking at this idea, and if you've noticed, we've had a lot of these sermon intro videos where we go up to people and like, man, what would it be like if you could meet Jesus? What would you say to him? You guys ever thought about that? It's a fascinating question, isn't it? And what would you say? What would it be like if you met Jesus? Well, today, we're going to look at two people that met him, and we're going to ask these questions like, what did they say? What did they do? How did they respond? And most importantly, and what can we learn from people that actually met Jesus? So, like I said, there's a couple of them, and we'll notice today that both of them are very, very eager to meet Jesus. The first one is a woman, and she's clearly had a pretty spicy life, because the Bible, God's word, literally refers to her as just the sinful woman. Can you imagine that being like your title for eternity? And that's just all we know about her, other than a few little facts here. But then we also meet this other guy, and it's the one we're really looking at today. And his name is Simon the Pharisee. Simon the Pharisee. So, because I love you guys, and I'm a pastor, we dive in there and we do our due diligence, right? So I need to get in there and research this guy and find out a little bit about him. And I was able to uncover, it's amazing what they can find anymore as they go into Israel and they find different things. And they found out what Simon the Pharisee looks like. So to help you, got a little factoid for you. That's our boy. That's Simon the Pharisee. No, but as I was thinking about this, I thought it was kind of ironic. We sort of think of Pharisees like this, don't we? If you've tracked it all with who they are and how they are, we sort of view them as superior. Of course, you know, this is Simon Cowell from American Idol and America's Got Talent and whatever else shows he does. And he's this talent expert, right? He observes what's happening, and they pass or fail. Do they move on? And the Pharisees, you can see that in some of the language in the Bible, that these guys are walking around with kind of an air of superiority. Walking around with their noses up at times, right? Seem a little bit better than, kind of snotty, kind of snooty. But I want to start with this. We don't always give the Pharisees the rep that they deserve. So I want to talk just a little bit. And actually, we don't know as much as we think about the Pharisees, but they began as a group of men, a small group of men that were beyond dedicated to God. I think you can see that in the scriptures. These guys took God, their walk with him, their relationship, very seriously. And the way they would do that primarily at this time, of course, was to study the Bible, to study their Bible. So let me promise you, if you went up against a Pharisee in a Bible knowledge competition, those boys would smoke you. They'd smoke me. So they didn't just know the Bible. These men had memorized their version of the Bible. Of course, they didn't have the New Testament. They had their version of the Bible, which was the Torah mostly. And again, they had the whole thing completely memorized. Not just that, but they knew all 613 of the laws that God had given Moses. They knew them by heart. And not only did they know them by heart, they took them so seriously that they would talk and debate, and they would expand what these laws meant, how they should be followed. It was called the oral tradition. And they took it beyond seriously. And part of their heart was, since they had all this time to study, the Pharisees would go amongst the common folks like you and I, because people that didn't have time to do that, and they would help them understand the law. They would help them obey the law. The Pharisees had a real heart to make sure that God's people were separate and holy and pure and clean. Guys, they had good intentions to start with. So today, we're going to be looking at Simon the Pharisee, and I was thinking, you guys know I like my title, so today's title of this sermon is It's No Shame in My Game. No shame in my game. So I'm going to invite you. One thing I love about the Gospels is we're looking at stories. And I think sometimes we can break them down a little bit too much. So today, I'm going to go a little bit simpler in the way we look at this, because we're looking at a story. We're looking at a scene. I want to invite you into that. I want you to almost think at times as we're talking like you're watching a movie. I'm going to help us pause and kind of shift the camera to different scenes, different characters, and I want you to let your mind go there. So I'm actually going to invite you to stay seated today, because I'm not going to read the whole passage at once. We're going to start going through it, but we're going to be in Luke chapter 7. If you want to follow along, verse 36 is where we're going to start at. But that's where we'll begin. So in this story, the scene begins at a dinner party. So let me just pull it up on the screen here. And it says this in Luke 7:36, when one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to have dinner with them. And you're going to notice I've highlighted certain things. I've underlined certain things. That's to get you to pause, me to pause. One of the Pharisees invited Jesus to have dinner with them. And he went. He went to the Pharisee's house, and he reclined at the table. So let's stop right there for a minute. Does that fascinate anybody? We've got Jesus eating, willingly, reclining, hanging out at a Pharisee's house at the table. One thing that is a passion of my life, people read the Bible, and I think we miss these things. And I just want to challenge you guys to fall in love with the real Jesus. Fall in love with the real Jesus. This is the one who not only tells us to love our enemies. Here, in scenes like this, we see Jesus practice what he preaches. This is the one that told us to bless those who curse you, and now he's doing exactly that. Jesus, the essence of love itself, is accepting an invitation to dine with the men, with the group that are not only eventually going to dismiss him, they're going to call for his death. These are the guys. And I'm not sure this is actually the only time we have this particular Simon the Pharisee mentioned in the Bible. There's a couple other scenes that look very similar with a man named Simon. He's a leper. It's not the same guy. This is the only time we see this guy. But Jesus is right there with him. That's how our scene begins. And then it shifts real quick into something very different. While dinner's happening, and you got to remember back in the day, a lot of people, especially people that had money, they'd have courtyards. And prominent people would sit outside. They'd eat outside. And the common folk, again, like you and I, the people that didn't have Netflix and Prime Video, they had nothing to do at night. So they would gather outside these people's houses to listen to how people talked, to see what's going on. And word's gotten out that not only are they going to be sitting outside eating, these Pharisees, but Jesus is going to be there. So I want you to think again of that scene. And then it says this in verse 37, that a woman in that town, we don't know her name, who lived a sinful life, learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house, so she came there. She came there with an alabaster jar of perfume. As she stood behind him, as she stood behind Jesus at his feet weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears. And she wiped them with her hair. She kissed them. She poured perfume on them. Can you picture this in your mind? It's a pretty vivid picture in it. And again, I just want us to stop for a minute. This is a story. God's trying to tell us something. He's inviting us into the scene, so we have an intrusion here. And we're going to take a closer look at this woman next week. But in order to understand Simon, in order to understand this story, we've got to stop and just pause at this moment for a minute, because I want you to think about this. Again, there's this curious crowd that's sitting outside of this courtyard and their walls, and you got people pressing close. You got people that are just hoping to hear a word from heaven. You got people that are maybe hoping they can see a miracle at any moment, right? They're just trying to get a glimpse of this man, Jesus. And then somewhere from the sidelines, you have this woman that slowly emerges. She's making her way out from the crowd. And again, I want you to picture these scenes. I'm being very intentional here. It's almost like the camera now is focusing completely on her, and these men are sitting, they're reclining at the table, and this woman is standing, and she's moving toward the table, and she's moving toward him. Her head's down. I want you to think about that. She's got this vial of perfume clutched in her hands, and she's just moving. And as she walks toward the table, I promise you that this woman, her reputation, her history, it's holding her hand every step of the way. And like a prisoner that's chained to her past, you got shame standing right beside her. But still, she's moving. And she's moving toward him. She's moving toward Jesus. And they all know who she is. They all know. That girl, that woman, that home wrecker, that trash, that sinner. It says right there in the text. See, the Bible gives her no name. Isn't that fascinating? But she needs no name, because we all know who she is. She's in every town. She's in every community. She's in every workplace, every neighborhood. She's there. You got the troublemaker, the seductress, the bad girl, again, the sinner. And how much courage, for real, think about this. You can get, they know who she is. How much courage did it take her to walk into that courtyard, toward that table, toward those men? And think about it. How hard was her heart hammering in her chest? How sweaty did her palms have to be in that moment where she's moving toward him? I mean, what makes a woman like that think that she can walk up to a man like him? I'll tell you what. This lady clearly, with that reputation, has heard something, and she went there to find out if it's true. And that's that messy people are welcomed by Jesus. If I tell you nothing else today, if you hear nothing else, and you're like, I've heard that before, John, I want to say it again, guys. Messy people are welcomed by Jesus. I don't know why the world misses this. I don't know why Christians miss this. I don't know why this seems to be so confusing to people that claim they read the Bible. There's no way you read this book. There's no way you study this man and come away with the conclusion that you got to be squeaky clean. You got to be somehow super righteous. Jesus welcomes messy people. He welcomes messy people. Messy moms, messy dads, broken boys, disturbed daughters, addicts, alcoholics, adulterers, liars, thieves, when you've been caught, when you've been found out, when your name no longer matters, and you simply become in some real way known as the troublemaker, the loser, that one, the problem child, again, the sinner. When you've messed it up that bad, know this: messy people are welcomed by Jesus. Dinner continues. When the Pharisee, Simon, who had invited him, saw this, what did Simon see? He saw this. He said to himself, notice, Bibles, these details are super important, guys. He's not talking out loud. In some of the stories that seem very similar, people are speaking out loud. You probably remember those. In this scene at Simon's house, he's having a little talky talk with himself. Isn't this where we do the real talk, by the way? We're at dinner, we're kicking it with people, and we're smiling, but we're having a whole nother conversation inside. So he said to himself, if this dude, if this man, if this guy, if he were a prophet, he would know, right? We all know. He would know who's touching him, what kind of woman she is, and that she's a sinner. Again, I want to pause here a minute because Simon, our host, the one who invited these men, the one who invited Jesus, Simon knows who she is, right? So again, let's picture this scene. We already saw what she did. Now let's go to their perspective, right? They were talking, they were kicking it, and the conversation is probably clearly stopped, right? We got a scene going on. And awkwardness ensues. She's at Jesus' feet, guys. Hair is down. There's being a mess made on the floor. She's probably sobbing. It's got to be super awkward. And I wonder, doesn't Simon's mind, the host, has to be scrambling, right? What's she doing? Why is she here? Why won't she stop? What does she think that she can do belonging here with us? This is my home. This is my guest. This is my dinner. I mean, he's probably thinking, should I stop her? Should I shame her? Should I scream at her? Surely, somebody here is going to do something, right? Can't you almost picture his mind? And the table goes silent when this lady's footsteps fall behind the feet of Jesus. And now Simon's question becomes crystal clear. Oh, okay. Now I get it. I wonder what he's going to do. I wonder what Jesus is going to do with this. Simon, the Pharisee, the host, he never invites her to sit. He never invites her to join. He never asks her to recline at the table. He doesn't pass the bread. He doesn't pour a cup of wine. He simply leaves her in silence at the feet of Jesus. Guys, Simon's at that table. Jesus is at that table. But it's like Simon and his heart are 1,000,000 miles away. Jesus answered him. Did I read the story wrong? I don't think he said anything. I think it says he thought to himself, right? He's having a little internal conversation, but Jesus answered him. Simon, I've got something to tell you. Woo! Here we go. Isn't it? We should perk up, right, when Jesus has something to say. Tell me, teacher, he said. Again, guys, you got to remember, Simon has no idea that Jesus knows. But again, I want us to think about that. Simon said that he thought to himself. So why would Jesus answer him? Sometimes we say everything when we say nothing, don't we? Sometimes we say everything when we say nothing. And I don't think Jesus is being like a psychic reader here. I really don't. Have you ever noticed how the atmosphere completely changes when that person walks into the party, the get-together? The troublemaker, the addict, the drunk, the adulterer, the political party screamer dude, they show up at the restaurant uninvited. They show up in the break room. They show up at the lunch table. Everything goes silent, but everybody knows what's being said. Without a word, the whole room screams, "You are not wanted." I want to ask you, have you ever been there? Walking in that room, and without a word, undoubtedly, you know, unwanted, unwelcome. No words spoken, but you know it in your bones. You know it in your heart. So Jesus answers him. Tell me, teacher. And Jesus does this beautiful, tiny little parable, little story. He says, listen, Simon, you got a couple people, two of them. Two people owed money to a certain money lender. One owed him 500 denarii, the other 50. Neither of them had the money to pay him back, so he forgave the debts of both. Again, Simon's got to be like, where are we going with this? Like, what's happening? And then Jesus, the master teacher, does what he always does. He asks a question. Got these two people, right? Big bucks. Actually, they're both big bucks, but one's huge bucks. One's a little bit more big bucks. Simon, if both those people got forgiven of that debt, which of them is going to love the money lender more? Simon replied, I suppose the one who had the bigger debt forgiven. I don't know. I don't want to read into it too much, but you sense a little smugness there, you know? A little bit like, okay, you got me. I suppose the one who had the bigger debt forgiven. And you got Jesus just being like he is. You've judged correctly, my friend. And then this is what I talk about these little details, these little moments in these stories. The woman's still there, by the way, while all this is going on. She's never been addressed yet. Nothing that I know of has ever been spoken to her yet. And the scene changes again. Follow the camera. Look at the characters. Something fascinating happens here. He's talking to them, and all of a sudden, Jesus turned toward the woman. I read commentaries, I read things, and people are talking about this woman had to have seen Jesus before. She had to have made a decision before. There had to be a point now, and she's just coming to kind of make an act in front of them. I don't know, maybe that happened, but I have no reason to believe that until this moment, until this exact moment, the Bible I read that says she's living a sinful life. You got a sinful woman now. They all know. They've seen her walking around, but she's down at his feet. And in that moment in front of all these righteous people, this guy that calls himself holy turns and looked this sinful woman full in the face. Guys, if you've ever thought that Jesus has to turn his back on you in that moment, if you've ever been taught that God's disgusted by you and your filth and your mire, it's scenes like this that should take your breath away. He turns and looks at her full in the face. And he speaks to Simon. And again, he asks this simple, profound, powerful question. Simon, do you see this woman? Do you see her? She'll be like, yeah, bro. We saw her walk over here. We saw her kneel down. We saw her take her hair down, which is a big no-no, by the way, Jesus. And now we see her doing something that looks really inappropriate at your feet, man. In fact, not only I saw it, Everybody in the courtyard saw it. Everyone's going to be talking about tomorrow. What do you mean, do I see this woman? Of course I see her. And still, Jesus asks, Simon, do you see this woman? As this is such a powerful question. Jesus knows that he saw her before. He's inviting Simon in love to say, look again. This is what Jesus does with people. This is who he is. Guys, what we see changes everything about our lives when we roll with Jesus. Everything changes when our perspective changes and we see things the way he sees. One of my favorite passages that helps me so much when I'm walking around in this world and I'm thinking about my spirit and I'm thinking about the way I see the world and the way I see my brothers and sisters and the people that I do life with. Jesus starts talking about our eyes and the importance of it. And he says, listen, in the Sermon on the Mount, I want to tell you something. That this eyeball that you have, the way you see the world, this is your lamp. This is your light. And if your eyes are healthy, if you're looking through kingdom reality, if you're seeing things like I do, if they're healthy, your whole body's going to be full of light. Aren't you blown away when you're having a good day and things are rolling great with Jesus and anything can be happening and you just see things differently? You see people differently. And he's saying, Simon, do you see this woman? Because he knows that his eyes aren't healthy. He saw the look. He saw the sneers. He sees the underhanded things going on. And man, have you been there before? The darkness that fills you, the poison that hits your words and your mind and your attitude. Man, when your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body's full of darkness. And if then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? Simon, do you see this woman? So Jesus unpacks it for him. It's a rhetorical question. He says, I want to tell you what I saw. I came into your house, man. I was your guest long before she got here. You didn't give me any water for my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears, wiped them with her hair. You didn't give me a kiss, but this woman from the time I entered hasn't stopped kissing my feet. You didn't put oil on my head, but she has poured perfume on my feet. You didn't, but she did, but she has. These were common courtesies that were done to a guest at those times. You came in, you're getting your feet washed. It's what we do. You came in, you're getting a kiss of greeting. You come into my house, I'm going to anoint your head with oil and make sure we're good to go. Simon did none of that to Jesus before this woman ever entered the scene. He's saying, buddy, you've been so busy looking at her that you haven't stopped and looked at yourself. Man, Jesus is speaking in love, guys, even at this moment to this man. Because I promise you, this happens all the time. I see it over and over in life. I watch people do it. I've done it. Isn't it amazing when we sit here in that seat of judgment, when we're watching the news, when we're jumping on social media, when we're at the table, and all we do is we're looking at the flaws of others. We're pointing out the nastiness of other people. When we do that, it's impossible to see the flaws in ourselves. And there's no way until I see the flaws in myself that I'm willing to sit and weep and make a mess of myself in worship at the feet of Jesus. He continues, therefore, after this little bit, he says, I tell you, her many sins have been forgiven as her great love has shown. It would be easy to think again that like, oh, because she loves so well, that's why she's forgiven, right? No, that's not what Jesus is saying. Again, look at his words. He says, listen, you want to know why I know she's forgiven? There's a response. There's a result. There's something I can see. When people that have been when they understand what they've done, when they understand how far they've taken it, and they still get forgiven, it should produce an incredible love. And I've seen the love that she has. So I know that this woman is absolutely forgiven. But then the haunting words after that, and notice he doesn't address Simon directly in love. Jesus just lets it hang there. He uses this little word, but whoever. whoever, Simon, has been forgiven little, loves little. God, Simon met Jesus Christ. We're talking about people that met him. What would we do? What would we say? This man met Jesus Christ, and he knew about the miracles. He knew about the casting out of demons. He knew about the authoritative teaching. He met this guy. He invited him. He's in his house. Can you imagine Jesus kicking in your house? He's eating with them. He's dining with them. And Simon missed it, man. Do you know it's possible to meet Jesus, to be around him, to dive into the word and still have nothing change? Guys, Simon is proof of that. In this scene, he chose to see sin, not this woman's salvation. He was so busy looking at her faults, he never realized that this is what forgiveness looks like. And man, with his boys there that all knew this woman, and they've all been clearly saying, let's check this Jesus guy out. Oh, he saw a prime opportunity to look like the man in front of them by rejecting instead of receiving. And like so many people, what we do is Simon chose to see her on the floor, making a debacle of herself. He chose to see the mess. And Simon missed the message. He missed the message that Simon, even you blew it there. You made a mess of this dinner, actually. You made a mess of me walking in the door. And what I'm trying to tell you, brother, even you now, it's an invitation from Jesus. And messy people are welcomed at my feet. They're welcomed by me. Guys, the presence of Jesus, they were in his presence. And by the way, we're in his presence today. Did you know that? He's here. He's speaking. He's moving. Maybe part of this story is touching you. Something's happening inside here. And all these things, it's supposed to change us. His presence, his forgiveness, it should change the way we welcome. How did you welcome people when you walked in here today? How do you welcome people when you're out at the store? Do you talk to them? Do you address them? The forgiveness of Jesus changed this woman. Has it changed you in the way that you welcome? Has it changed the way that you see? If we asked your family, if we asked your coworkers when they're sitting at the break table with you or around the kitchen thing at home or jumping online, what is the way you see people out there? And what's the way you talk and think about them? Are you more like Simon or are you more like the woman? And of course, man, the end result is this: being in his presence, being offered that forgiveness, to be right there with him in any capacity, to know how far I took it and how far he came to take it away. Man, it should change the way as followers that we love. It should change the way we love. I'm asking you today, has it changed you? I want to tell you, it's changing some of the men that I've had the privilege to walk with lately. I'm going to show you a couple pictures. I got back from Red River Gorge a couple days ago. Was out there for 2 trips. Old man still conquered it. I still got it, people. Let's go. So we take these guys out there, and we take them to some incredible spots. This is a place called Half Moon. There's a little rock lip that juts out here. We call it the God's Palm, and we invite guys to stand out there. It's like hundreds of feet down. These are the treetops down here, straight down. We take them to a place, this is called Cloud Splitter. It's this amazing rock formation that just juts up out of the gorge. There's a big split in the middle. We climb up to the top, and then we crawl into the crack, and we get into this cave. And guys, I get to tell them the story of Elijah in there. I get to talk about this man that ran from a woman named Jezebel after he called down fire from heaven, by the way, and how he ran all the way and to this cave, and God whispered to him in this cave There's actually a big window in this cave, by the way, too. It's so cool. And now God called him like, Elijah, man, buddy, I need you to go back. I need you to do your job. It's so amazing. And the whole trip starts right here. We start all the way down the bottom. There's a beautiful little river there. And it's carved out underneath this rock. Doesn't that look like something out of Lord of the Rings, guys? This bridge, it's called the Rock Bridge there. We take them there. We kind of let them mess around like little kids for a little bit. And then I sit them down right here. We sit right here. And we just start. We just start. And I invite them to stop and to pause. Because we don't get that a lot in life, do we? And just sit in the presence of Jesus. And I begin to tell them how, man, we didn't come out here just to have fun. I hope you have a blast. But we came out here to be with our Father. We came out here to be in the presence of Jesus. Guys, we brought you here because I absolutely believe in a God that speaks to this day, and he still moves, and he's going to do something in these woods. And it's amazing. And I'm passionate when I do it because over and over, I'd say the prime candidate that comes on these trips are guys that don't feel like they fit in at church. They're messed up. They're broken. They're pretty jacked up. If you guys could be on these trips, I promise you, I'm not lying. There's some crazy stuff. So many times I'm like, oh man, this is getting a little out of hand. There's F-bombs. There's people vaping. There's people telling sometimes some inappropriate stories, and it's always like, God, help me. But I'm not there to police them. I'm not there to be their daddy. I'm there to invite them to sit at the feet of Jesus and listen. I begin the whole trip. If you were here about a week ago, I talked about this. I start in Genesis. I start in Genesis 28, and I tell them right here the story of a man named Jacob. If you know anything about the Bible, Jacob was a man chosen by God, but at this point in the story, man, Jacob's on the run. He's a young man on the run because he lied. He stole his brother's birthright. He swindled him. And his brother wants to kill him, so he's got to get out of Dodge. And you know where he goes? He goes into the wilderness. Over and over, we have this theme about God doing something in the wilderness with men. And Jacob goes into the wilderness, and he sees this incredible vision, sleep at night with angels ascending and descending. It's this beautiful picture of God still wanting to move here on earth, that the kingdom somehow is still, a taste of it is still here now. And then God begins to speak to him. This sinful guy, this busted guy, this broken guy. God looks him full in the face, says, buddy, I want to use you. I love you. It's not game over, man. I'm going to make a nation out of you. I'm going to give you this land that you were relying on, and I'm telling you this right now. What I want you to know, what Jesus wanted that woman to know, what he wants you to know, I am with you. Like, guys, wherever you're at, God is with you. And what I love is, in that story, it says when Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, man, surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. And he was afraid and said, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. And I'm intentional there, and I'm stopping guys there because I know, just like this woman that lived a sinful life, she heard something. She heard that Jesus was in a place. She heard that Jesus was going to be there. She heard about this promise of a new life, and she came. And I'm looking at certain guys that I've never been to church with. I know very little about their stories, but I seem to always know on some level. The guys I'm looking at have lived a sinful life. And that particular day, I'm looking at a man named Keith. He was standing. Man, I'm teaching, and homeboy is standing on the lip of that bridge, and he keeps moving back. I'm like, buddy, I've never lost a man out here. You better sit down right now. You're going to die. And he's standing, and I knew a little bit of Keith's story. Just a little bit. Homeboy's lived a sinful life. A lot of F-bombs while he's telling me his story. A lot of violence and fighting, and he told me this. These guys tell me this, guys. These are the men that I roll with. These are the guys that I hang out with, just like Jesus, because I was one of them. And I'm looking at this man who lived a sinful life, and he heard that some men were going out there to find Jesus, so he came. And I'm praying inside like, God, I want this man to meet you out here. I want him to hear from you. because Keith had told me something incredible before we left. I was calling about a week out. He had signed up, so I was checking with the guys, make sure they got everything they need, and we're chopping it up on the phone. He said, man, I want to tell you something, brother. He's like, I'm not one of these guys that says God spoke to me, but God spoke to me. He spoke to me, man. I'm like, what happened? He starts talking about how he's always had a hang-up with baptism. And again, you got to remember, this is a fighter guy. This is just, seems like kind of an angry dude. He's like, people talk to me, it's great. You got to be baptized. He's like, that's just a bunch of crap. You don't got to be baptized. You don't have to do that. The thief on the cross wasn't baptized. Stop pressuring me to baptize. He's like, man, just this thing with me. I didn't want to do it. He said, but John, if I'm being honest right now with you here, it really wasn't just that I didn't want to do it. I was afraid being a military dude. I was afraid being a ride or die guy with commitment. I was afraid that if I went under that water and came up and it all of a sudden failed Jesus, man, I could never look him in the face again. And I've known I'm not ready to give some of this stuff up, man. Particularly, like a lot of things, but man, I've been drinking like my whole life. And there's no way I'm giving that up. And he said, John, 2 days ago, I'm in my basement. I'm hammered. Homeboy's telling me this a couple days from the trip. Do I tell him not to come? Do I tell him it's not for him? He's hammered. He said, I'm down there, and I'm drunk, and I'm thinking, what the heck is my problem? I said I wouldn't. I'm doing it again. I'm there. And he said, all of a sudden, man, I'm just crying out to God. Like, God, I've never said this, but I'm so sick of this. If I got to give all this up to get to you, I'm willing right now to do anything. Just tell me what to do. Just tell me where to go. I'm so tired of it. And he goes, it was like he spoke out loud and said, hey, dummy, you're going in a couple days to the Red River Gorge. I'm sure there's a river there. I think it's about time to go all in. He said, John, I don't know how this happens or if it's a thing, but like, is there any way that you could possibly baptize me at Red River? I said, no way, bro. That's not what the trip is all about. That's not what we do. Get your backpacking stuff. We'll worry about that later. Guys, when we talk about God speaking, when we talk about God moving, when we talk about God looking full in the face to people that are sinful, I had goosebumps over my whole body. Trip hadn't even started yet, and it had started. Will you baptize me? Brother, I'd be honored to baptize you. So much more to the story, but I got to keep going through it. So there we are. Thursday morning in the icy waters of the Red River Gorge. Trust me, it's chilly. And guys, I had already spent time with this man. He had told me, it was one of my favorite Keith stories. Again, just violent guy, he knew it, but a fun guy. And he said, man, John, one night I was going off, early in my marriage. I was so mad. And he goes, I actually punched, and if you see Keith, you know what I'm talking about. He said, I punched completely through my bedroom door, man. He goes, problem was, we were selling the house, and people were coming like the next day to look at it, so I didn't have time to replace the door, so I went out to the home store, and I find 2 signs that said, love lives here, and I just glued them on both sides of the hole. I said, bro, I'm never going to look at one of those signs the same again, man. Love lives here. But I'm in the water with this guy. And I'm looking for words in the water, and I'm like, God, what can I say? Because I know Keith struggled with what I did with shame and self-worth, and he's about to go under. And I take baptism, guys, I'm taking it serious, man. I'm taking my time with it. I'm talking loud, and I want him to know, brother, that guy, this is symbolic of, that guy is already dead, by the way, but we're just putting him back down there to show the world. Keith Oberg is done, homeboy. All of that stuff, God doesn't want to talk to him anymore. He's done with it, and you're coming up into something totally new, man. And I want you to become obsessed with the same voice that Jesus heard. And he's looking down right now, brother. He's not seeing any of that stuff. What he's saying right now in this moment is, this is my boy. This is my beloved son. And in him, I am so pleased. And I asked him the questions, and I dunked him down. I brought him up, and I did, man. I gave him a hug. And then I body slammed him back down again. I did double dipping, man. I had to make sure. And we're sitting there, and we come up on the shore, and we're hugging and laughing. A guy, Noah, was there, and he's like, dude, I've never been at a baptism like this, and the water of the Red River's dripping off us. We're in our skivvies, man. That's how we roll at Kentucky, people. We don't bring swimsuits. We just strip down to the undies. I've never been to London. I've never been to France, but I've seen a lot of open-door guys in their underpants. We're there in our skivs, and guys, going back to God and how he moves and how he works and the people like Keith that he wants to use. He walked in the water, and what I didn't notice was there was somebody watching on the rock. This is where we jump from. It's called Jump Rock. So we bring the guys there, and we're talking about, again, we tell the story of Peter where Jesus told him, like, hey, when you're older, you're going to be led to a place you don't want to go. And symbolically, we jump off that rock into the icy water to symbolize that. We'd already done that, and this kid sitting there watching the whole time. Nobody else there but us and this young boy. And we had met him earlier when we swam. When we got there, he's doing backflips off there. He's clearly trying to show off, a little show-off kid. So we'd swum over. We got to the top. He's up there. And I don't know about you. I told you a little bit earlier, the presence of Jesus' forgiveness should change some stuff. It should change the way we welcome people. I'm standing there in my underwear, people. I am not a great-looking man with all my clothes on. I'm in my underpants, and I'm trying to talk this guy up. You know, hey, how's it going, man? What are you doing out here? Because that's what we do as Jesus people, right? There's a person around me, man. Maybe this is an opportunity. You come out here a lot? Yeah, I mean, kind of. I decided to cut school today. Not all about school. I'm a senior, and school just kind of stinks. Oh, you out here with some buddies? No, I'm just out here by myself. Nobody really likes to do this stuff with me. And you can feel it. In 30 seconds, you can feel it. Spirit, just right there. Stop. I'm out here by myself in the wilderness. Nobody wants to come with me, and here we are. I said, hey, man, my name's John. Undies flowing. My name's John. Hi. My name's Jacob. My name's Jacob. We talked a little bit. We jumped off. That's when we did the baptism. But Jacob stopped jumping and he started listening. We're standing on the shore in our underwear, water dripping, 4 guys in awe. We're like teary, just spending time with our brother. And from the top of that rock, I didn't know he was up there. Guys, God is so real. Hey, John! He knew my name. He remembered my name. Hey, John, will you pray for me? I'm struggling with pornography, alcohol, and smoking. I thought he was joking. I thought he was mocking us for a minute. I'm like, I look up because I didn't know he was there, and here's a little bit better picture of him. Will you pray for me? He yelled it. I said, brother, you best believe I'll pray for you. Get your butt in the water. Get over here. Homeboy cannonballs down, swims over. And for the next 15 minutes, we were asking about his relationship with Jesus. I have one. It just hasn't been good. Talking about his parents. How's things with your dad? I don't have a dad. What about mom? I know where she is, but I live with my grandparents. There's things haven't worked for me. I just don't feel like I fit in at school. I don't feel like I fit in at church. And there's me and 3 of my brothers in our underwear, laying hands on this kid, praying life, praying love, praying strength. And Keith, moments from coming up out of the water, is praying some of the most powerful words over this young man that I've ever heard. And we get done, and Keith had a Bible in his backpack. I would have been like, leave that at home. You don't need to wait, man. He pulls a Bible out of his backpack and says, Jacob, can I give this to you? Even if you have one, I'd love to just commemorate this day. I couldn't believe what was happening. Jonathan Abdul was with us. He had gone to the No Man Walks Alone thing where they're talking about sexuality and pornography. He goes, hey, I got something in my car. Can we go get it? I think this is really going to help you. God, moving. Unbelievable. So they go to get that. We exchange numbers with Jacob. And I'm sitting there with Keith, and he's the one that first pointed out. He said, bro. I'm like, what? He goes, that's Jacob. I'm like, yeah, Jacob. He goes, no, that's Jacob, the young man that ran alone into the wilderness. And dude, and we were here, and he goes, oh. He goes, what? John, what if I never listened to God that night when I was drunk? What if I never got in that water? What if we never stopped today and did this? Would we have had this moment? What if my yes brought a yes for Jacob? Ding, 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 ding. Guys, goosebumps. And here's my new brother Keith saying, surely God is in this place. How awesome is this place? Because he learned in moments, man, this guy who's got, he's got a spicy past. But when you get with Jesus and he lets you sit there in his voice, in his presence, it changes the way he welcomed him, the way he saw that kid, the way he spoke and thought and talked over him, the way he loved him. It was real, it was pure. And maybe just for a day, maybe a week, I don't know. It's not my job to do it. It changed everything for Jacob. And how do I know? Because we went hiking up that mountain. We go up the Indian staircase. I forgot to tell you a little important point. When we had pulled up to the car lot that day, there was one car in the parking lot. We had two vehicles, and we get there, and on the back of this car, it says, I love big girls. Like, okay, that's interesting. So the guys being guys, somebody on the back of Jonathan's car, since it was all dusty, wrote, I heart big girls. So when we had gotten down there, you know, my friend Noah, when Jacob was sitting on the rock, said, yo, man, you like big girls? I'm like, bro, come on, dude. He's like, you know I do. This whole scene takes place. 2 days later, we get down off the mountain. Jonathan's back windshield was wiped clean. Jacob took out his marker while we were gone and wrote, God is love. Messy people are welcomed by Jesus. And guys, you might think, man, John's giving a lot of details about this Keith guy. Like, so what we do is I asked for permission. I was sitting there yesterday, I only had 1 day to prepare for this. That's why I'm sorry. I bet we're probably crazy long, but hopefully we're okay. I'm sitting in McDonald's and I'm bawling. Just thinking about what God does with these jacked up dudes, because I'm just remembering it's a microcosm of my own life, and it just overwhelms me. You know, that they got to taste it, they got to see it. And I was texting him, I said, brother, listen, no pressure, but I would really love to tell part of your story in my sermon. And I would really love to use your name. But I understand if you don't want me to, because I said, I'm going to give them the stuff. I'm going to tell them you were drinking. I'm going to tell them you were dropping F-bombs, wilding out. Keith sends back, bro, use my first, last, and middle. No shame in my game. How did that woman walk into that room? How did Keith get in that water? How did God change my life? You realize anymore, all that stuff's real, but all that stuff that dogs you, all that stuff that haunts you when you spend time there, you realize the best thing. You don't care anymore, man. There's no shame. It's all real. That woman has lived a sinful life. Keith been wilding out. Guys, the stories I tell you from up here, embarrassing. But the beautiful thing at his feet, no shame anymore, man. It's like, man, if it can help one person, John, go for it. Giddy up. Finishing up. Guys, has it changed us? Has it changed you? The way you welcome, the way you see, the way you speak, the way you love. Jesus says that there's a couple type of people sitting out here this morning. There's people that you see do it all the time. People are loved well at this campus, guys. I mean, we got some lovers here. It's amazing. I hear it all the time. Vermilion, incredible, just the love and care. I'm not talking about just the general thing. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about you. There's two types of people. People that have been forgiven for so much, so they love so great. And there's people that are sitting out here like, the way I welcome people, speak, think. Which one are you, and which of them loves him more? So, Father, as we wrap up, thinking about this woman that we don't know her name, but she's up there with you right now, Jesus. I hope you have your arm around her, smiling, again, using her life, using her testimony, using all this to change people's lives. It changed my life. Thank you, lady that sat at Jesus' feet. You changed my life by the way you responded to him to know it's possible. Father, I pray if there's people right now that need to do that same thing, that they'll do it today. They'll do it right here. They'll stop letting shame dictate their life. They'll stop looking at other people and take a long look at themselves. And for one reason only, to run to your feet, Jesus. And to just pour it out, all the tears, all the shame, all the trash, all the garbage, all the hurt, all of it. It's the only place that can hold it. It's the only place that can swallow it. It's the only place powerful enough to never remember it. Jesus, I pray that we can just make a mess in this place right now of worship for the people that already know you, just remembering, not just remembering their sin, but the high price you paid to set them free. And if there's one person, Jesus, that doesn't know you, that they will run to the front and they'll grab me. They'll run to the back, grab Brian. They'll grab someone by them and just say, just right now while the song's playing, can you just help me? I need him. Stop Neil from playing guitar. Let's find Jesus. Jesus, we want people to find you here. You are what the world needs. So thank you for loving the least. Thank you for loving the lost. God, thank you for Keith and his yes. I thank you for Jacob screaming on top of that rock. And I thank you for these guys just willing to look like idiots, to just love people in these wild and lonely places. And we're just hungry for more. Jesus, amen.